and welcome back. I'm Deziel, and today I'm going to show you how to do a placket, hidden placket that we see very often on shirt and blouse. Let's look at a sample. It's a hidden placket. The two front will be different. You have the bottom part where you have the button that is more basic, like an overlap and a little facing inside fold. And you have the top part that is double. One part is going to have your buttonhole and the other part is to hide the first one. So both front will be different width. Today I'm starting with the easiest side. It's the bottom one where you put the button. So for women, it's going to be my left side because usually women's garment, you're closing the right side over the left side. I'm going to trace it all around. Now I'm back with my sample because we're going to talk about the overlap. And the overlap comes from the diameter of your button. There's not just one measurement for the overlap. It could vary a lot, but I could give you the minimum and the maximum. What you must know is that your button is placed right on your center front. The overlap is added from the center front and it's going to be added to both sides, as you will see. The minimum I saw is half the diameter of your button. So you would measure from side to side your button, and from the center front, you would add half your diameter. The maximum measurement for overlap that I saw, of course, I'm not talking about the double breast, I'm talking about the overlap according to a button, was the diameter of the button plus half diameter. And that wide overlap, I saw it was more like in a coat. Now, if I look at this button that I have on my shirt, I see that my button diameter is 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch. And from the center front, I have the diameter of the button plus about 3 millimeters. It could be a fixed measurement, but very often in some document you will see that they talk about the diameter plus the thickness of the button. For my example today, I'm going to add exactly what you saw me measuring. So 1.3 millimeter or 1 time the diameter plus 1/8. And we trace parallel to the center front. The next step, we're going to add a self-fold facing. It's part of my pattern piece, but I'll call this area the facing because it's inside. If you look at it closely, you see the thread of the button here. That means that's the center front. And what you must see is that inside you have twice the width that you add for your overlap. From center front to the fold, this is your overlap. Now inside, twice the width. You know the measurement that you place for your overlap, now you double it and we trace the facing. Now we did the overlap, we did the facing part. Now what I want you to look at is the other side here. You could see that it's fold. Most of the time it will be fold, so it's clean. And here there's no never, no always. Sometimes it's only a seam allowance. Sometimes it's fold and it goes all the way to the other fold. And that second option, folding all the way to the other fold, is the one that you see most often because it's going to make your fabric stronger. You don't have to put fusible. You have 3 layers of fabric. If your fabric is transparent, you're not going to see lines. It's all going to be the same color. And finally, it will be easier to fold. Now for this third part that is inside, I suggest that you do the same width minus a millimeter or 2, just to make sure that it's not too big. It's better to be a little too small than too big. So this measurement minus a tiny little bit. Now I'm going to cut directly on that line and I show you how it's going to be folded. Now I'm going to fold on the facing line and I'm going to fold on the overlap line. And I even take the time to cut my pattern. Now, to redo those folding in fabric, we don't want to measure, we don't want to go refer to the paper, so we must place notches. The rule that I'm using today is the one I learned. There might be other way or other people do different, but that's how I learn and it works for me all the time. It's quite easy to remember and it's quite easy to do. On top, we put the notch on all layers at the center front, while at the bottom, we place the notch on each fold line. For the top part, you're going to fold back the pattern and notch at the center front. There's going to be 3 layers, so you see 3 notches at the center front. And the reason why we keep the center front as a reference at the neck level is that very often, blouse or top like that, they're going to have a collar and you need to know where the collar is starting. Now at the bottom, I said we're going to notch at the fold line, so it's easy for you to see. The 2 fold line, that's where you're going to place your notch. 3 notch, 2 notch. When you do it in fabric, that's what you'll have. So you know you place center front on top, hold the notch at the bottom for the fold line, pull them and press. Same thing again, center front with center front, the notch for the fold line, pull and press. I place another piece of paper under and I even trace my inside line to have it on the other side. Now if we look at the shirt again with the other side, what we're missing and what we have. So from the center front, we have the overlap we already did. We have the facing part we already have. But the last part, the one that was going inside, is now staying outside because it's continuing. So we have it already. What we're missing is another time the same measurement for the other side of the placket with the buttonhole. And since it's clean, we need to add more or less a seam value that's going to go inside the first placket. So I'm going to measure, repeat the measurement, then the seam allowance. Just like I did before, I'm going to cut on that last line. Now to be able to show you the folding and both pieces on the right side, I'm going to just report my line to have it on the other side of my paper. I'm also going to cut around my pattern. Now I wrote down where's my center front. We have fold to do and you will see that they don't go all in the same direction. The first one is not the center front, just after the center front, it's the overlap line. Send your paper towards the back. Then the next line, opposite direction, so you're gonna fold just like that. And the next line, opposite direction, just like that. Then from the good side, you're going to be able to cut the excess of paper at the waist and at the neck, following the contour of your bodice. While your pattern is folded, you're going to be able to do your notch at the center front on top. Then at the bottom, the 3 fold line. Now, when you have to do the folding in the fabric, we'll do exactly like I show you for the other one, except that here, remember that one time on one side, one time on the other side for the folding. But the notch, it remains the same, so we'll place the two center front notch at the neck together, hold at the fold line at the bottom, press, then center front with center front on top, fold line at the bottom, again we press, and one last time, center front with center front, so all my center front are aligned on top, and fold line the last notch at the bottom, we press. Now if I show you a little closer, you could see that my inside placket is a little narrower than the outside, so it's hidden. And this comes from the first piece where we did put a facing measurement that was twice the overlap. And I asked you to add another value, the same as the facing, minus a few millimeter or minus 1/8 of an inch. And this last part is what we use for that extra placket. Now, if we look at the real garment, you're going to see exactly the same little difference. Now, to stitch down this placket, it's only one seam. When all the pressing are done, you're going to just lift it a bit and push the seam allowance between, just like that. And you have one seam to do. It's the black line here from top to the bottom. When it's stitched down, it's going to hold the seam allowance inside, and since it's already pressed, the inside placket is just going to fold back in position. Now the pattern is complete. It would have to be cut one time each piece, exactly like that, because we're doing for women's. Now if we look at button and buttonholes, the first piece that we did would have the button right on the center front. And the second piece that we did would have a top stitch not at the center front, but at the same distance that we have for overlap, but inside to hold the pleat. And we look inside, you would have the buttonhole on the second placket or the hidden one. In the middle, vertical buttonhole, because see, I tried to show you here, it would go over, so we cannot do the horizontal buttonhole. It would have to be vertical right at the center front. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.